here we go. All right. You guys should be seeing my face right now. Yep, I see my face on the screen. Hello everyone, I'm Sark from Metis Creative, and today we're going to be diving deep into Echoes of Renaissance. With me are Tyler Dennison, our lead writer. Say hi.
Hello. Hello. Welcome.
Awesome. And with me is Doğa Sayılkan, our creative director. Say hi, Doğa.
Hello.
All right, I see a lot of people in the chat. Hello, guys. Oof. Today we have a very busy schedule. We're going to be talking about Echoes of Renaissance, going through the subclasses, bestiary, and legendary inspirations. We are going to be talking about the soundtrack, which our friends at Rabarba Studio have meticulously created. You're listening to it right now. And this moment you guys have been waiting for, we're going to be talking about which next Historica Arcanum survey results got the most votes. Alright, hi Kieran, hi Clement, Saint of CA, hi. A lot of people have really been enjoying the soundtracks. Are you guys ready to do a deep dive?
Yeah, absolutely.
What you just heard is our new main theme for Echoes of Renaissance, made by Rabarba Studios, our very talented friends from Rabarba Studios. Did this very recently, so you guys are like it's your first listen and it's our second listen, sort of. So it's just out of the oven.
Couple of disclaimers. First, Rabarba Studios is also ethnotic. They rebranded, so they are the guys behind phenomenal Era of the Crusades music. Secondly, English is Tyler's first language. Me and Da, it's not, so we may F it up a bit talking about and reading through Echoes of Renaissance. And lastly, this is going to be an interesting deep dive, because me personally, I actually haven't been around that much for Echoes of Renaissance writing process, creative process. Some of you guys know I had like personal mandatory military shenanigans to go through, and afterwards I was knee-deep with our new title, Historica Arcanum. Obviously, I read through everything, but Doğa and Tyler can, explain everything much better. More importantly, this is going to be a very interesting type of streaming where I will also be asking questions to the guys behind Echoes of Renaissance. If you guys are ready, I'm going to be popping up the PDF. Ready?
Yep, let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. So, the cover, again, looks awesome. I'm going to be slowly trickling down the PDF. Doğa and Tyler, you guys can also see my screen, right?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Path of the Cirque.
Okay. It's also like it's alphabetical, obviously.
Yeah.
But like also one of the.
How dare you? How dare you follow a rule?
It's obviously like alphabetical, but at the same time, it's one of the first subclasses that me and Tyler started talking about. I was yapping to Tyler about like why I don't usually play barbarians and stuff, but and the reason is basically I wanna like I usually tend to play more towards social characters, so I was really into playing like a skill junkie, like a rogue or like a bard or something, and but I always like find that barbarian is interesting, so we started talking about it, and we came up with this very interesting and like I'm pretty sure that it's an original take on the barbarian, a charisma-based barbarian.
Yep.
Tyler, take it away.
Yeah. So the idea behind this one, I was really excited to make it because it's most barbarians they've got their rage ability, which really drives and dictates what barbarians often do. But yeah, with this one we made it more charisma based, a barbarian that would be more like a street performer or like a local strong person rather than kind of the typical view of a barbarian. So that was kind of the impetus for it. And then while writing it, another big inspiration weirdly became like professional wrestling, like WWE.
Yeah.
Because
if
I
you know,
never,
you know.
yeah, I didn't grow. Yeah, I mean, in the Discord, people clocked it immediately, and I was happy about that. Because like, I mean, I didn't grow up a wrestling fan except for like 1 year when I was super into the Undertaker in fourth grade. But like, what I find interesting about wrestling is it's like very much like over the top melodramatic commedia dell'arte sort of like shenanigans in real, like it's drama in a very interesting, curious form. So like I don't know, like it seemed pretty interesting to take ideas from that, like having signature moves that you might pull, because a lot of, without spoiling too much, a lot of the story revolves around theater and performances. So, and some of the other subclasses do too. So with this one, it's all about like, you know, getting people's attention on the streets, the busy streets of, you know, early modern Venice, or wherever you may set it, and like doing crazy stuff to get people's attention and keep it, and then also use that to keep your power growing. So
Yeah.
one interesting thing we have is it works mechanically the same, but we don't have rage for this one. We have something called the revel,
Yeah, Revel, talk about it.
which basically, like, if you have an audience watching you, you get stronger and stronger. As you level up, you get cooler abilities, but performing in front of people and doing your thing, whether it's more acrobatic or more strength based, is helping you, much like rage would help you when you go into the zone of rage. You know, you go berserk or whatever. This is like going to the zone of like putting on your luchador mask and, you know, going full heel turn. So it was interesting. It was a nice way to like kind of give a nod to a different art form while also doing something that could, you know, kind of fit in that world, an early modern world. Obviously, um, in an interesting, different way,
Yeah.
because we always try to do something like not straight
Yeah,
and
absolutely, absolutely. Also, one thing that I really want to talk about before we actually get into all these, subclasses and bestiary and whatnot is how we approach Renaissance, because Renaissance as a topic is huge, and we picked Venice and like this, carnival plus commedia dell'arte theme, and I think you guys will see it throughout the stream and when you actually pick up echoes of Renaissance. Would you like to speak to that, Doa or Tyler?
sure, I can say something
Yeah.
unless Doa, you want to
No, no,
jump
please
in.
go on.
So yeah, I mean, people who've been, you know, following our publications before know that, you know, we strive for historical accuracy, but it is also like a magical world where magic exists. So we go for verisimilitude, but we also like, you know, take some creative license here and there. Um, so with this one, the Renaissance is really fascinating because it's not like it's not so much like a set time period really, as much as more of like a social, cultural, political,
Mhm.
philosophical movement, right? So
Yeah.
how the Renaissance played out in different city states in Italy, and even like uh, was very different sometimes, and between Northern Europe and Southern Europe, and yeah, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but like originally when the voting came in, the idea was like to do sort of Renaissance mixed with Mediterranean
Yeah,
Ottoman
yeah,
corsairs.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then as we kind of went along, it's just that's such a huge thing. It was going to become kind of like, to do it really justice. We found that we wanted to like narrow it down and focus, do like one city, one location really, really, really well, honor those other things, like, you know, without spoiling too much about the story, but
Yeah.
like the Ottomans are doing shenanigans and other city states are doing things, but we really kind of wanted to find a focus and really go full bore into that. And you guys came up with the idea of doing, you know, bringing in like the Commedia dell'arte
Yeah,
tradition and
yeah.
things
Yeah,
like that into it, which comes a little bit later in the 1500s, but is so tied to
yeah. Hmm.
uh, what is now northern Italy and Venice and things like it with the carnival, that yeah, it was kind of like such an exciting thing to explore that was very different from a lot of other things in the TTRPG space. So like, yeah, it was really exciting
Awesome.
to kind of hone in on that.
So, like another note about that is basically it might come of as a surprise to a couple of people, but like what we usually pay the most attention, like what we give our most of our um I don't know, effort is doing the setting the justice. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about like historical accuracy. I'm not talking about characters, the mechanics or something, but like the setting as a whole, like the product is on its own thing. So like as long as you can enhance the product with what you're like working with, it's all right. And like we usually try to come up with like original settings and like original concepts And like we adjust our history, we adjust our story, we adjust our characters according to that. So like Renaissance was the first thing that like we started working with, and like we tried to do Renaissance justice instead of like the
Yeah,
characters,
yeah,
story, the
Yeah.
history, they're all secondary.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like we're kind of trying to capture a particular zeitgeist or a particular
Exactly, a
spirit
particular field. Yeah,
rather than like yeah. So, you know, just to, you know, some people might be super interested in like the political intrigue in Florence or whatever, or Rome with the Papal States. Um, you know, this one, without spoiling too much, doesn't really go into that stuff in our adventure, but even if, you know, even if those are things you're looking for, I hope you'll find stuff that you like about it, like with the
yeah.
particular direction we took.
All right. We have a lot of stuff to go through, so let's pick up the pace.
Yeah, also I'm
Before-
talking way too much. Just tell me to shut up.
No worries, dude. By the way, before I move on, just let us know if our voices are too loud or too silent. If you guys can hear the music or if it's too loud, just let us know. And with that, Bard, College of the Masquerade. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
so,
start with the art because I think
Yeah.
no, I was gonna say this is my favorite, but my favorite is Pavasari. But for the people
I
in
can agree
the
with you.
chat, just look at this. It's absolutely marvelous.
It is a gorgeous piece of art. And also, Tyler, do you remember like this like concept of this one started off as like a debate if we should put it on the cleric or to the bard?
Yeah, yeah. It also for I can't remember now, so long ago, but there might have also been another subclass thrown, like another class it might have landed in. Yeah, shout out to our artists,
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
Yeah,
Belgian with this
goes to
one.
Belgian.
It's totally awesome. Also, shout out to one of the other writers, Mehmet Onur Kart, who worked on this particular subclass, and then a few of the
Yep.
other ones too, as well as the bestiary and other stuff. Yeah, this one, I don't remember all the details of like the discussions and debate about where it should go, but it ended up in Bard because I don't know. Again, we were trying to like fill a hole in Bard that wasn't,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, always filled. Um, and of course, we, you know, playing with the themes we were playing with, we wanted to incorporate masks somewhere without overdoing it all over the place. So
Mhm.
the Bard was really fun because it enabled them to use different masks to essentially like shapeshift into different things, which we can even poke our head into the bestiary later. Some
Yeah.
of the new fiends and like celestials and fae that are in there from card are directly related to this to give more options for lower level creatures to turn into briefly and use their powers and
Yep.
All
And
right.
if you, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like it's our second Pokemon sort of bard subclass. The Shadow Actor being the first.
oh my god, and there's an even
excited.
bigger Pokemon one with the wizard,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
we'll
like
talk
Yeah.
about later.
all over the place now. So this will probably give you a chance to like come up with like a three-person party if we write one more all bard, which is gonna be amazing.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Moving on to Cleric Art Domain. You guys won't see the art for this one because it's a combined art with the monk. But I mean, it's Renaissance and like a huge title like Art Domain really does deserve a discussion. What do you guys have to say about this one?
Yeah, so this one is all about disciplines. So there's like four disciplines
Uh
that we
huh.
are concentrating on. One of them is sculpture, the other
Uh-huh.
one is painting, other one is singing, and the other one is painting.
Uh huh.
And dance. You said
And
painting
dancing,
first?
sorry.
Yep.
In
There we
real
go.
life, I forgot about dancing. Alright, so Mr. Dancer, take it away.
Yeah, so you know the cleric who usually gets their power from you know belief in the divine. In this case, is getting it from divine belief and divine inspiration in like what can come of art and expression through art. I mean, I don't think I have to talk much about what art means for the Renaissance and how amazing it was. Like people like Titian and Michelangelo and Leonardo and Raphael and all of them, all the other Ninja Turtles. Um, they so the idea here was yeah that through a connection to your work, your art, and your craft, you can reach something that is, you know, like as Durkheim said, like effervescent and bigger than the sum of the parts, you know. So yeah, so like through connecting to your whatever your discipline is, you can create some cool stuff. Or and like for example with sculpture, turn people to stone
Yeah.
and cool stuff like create like creations from paint and stuff like that.
All right. Next one.
Okay, so
Druid. I don't think we revealed this art piece before, right?
we didn't, and this is the one that Tyler is most excited about. So I'm not even gonna say anything about it.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I'm so excited. I mean, the art is amazing. Also, just yeah, this was one of my babies. Huge shout out to like Brancolonia RPG setting because they had
Yep.
a Benindante as well, but theirs was quite different. Um, but yeah, the Benindante are otherwise known as like Good Walkers are
Hmm.
a group that from northeastern Italy now that um, basically were like dedicated to fighting against evil witches, Malandante.
Hmm.
So we came up with this idea of like, well, the idea historically, at least the stories go that they would be chosen because if they were born with a call and then they could kind of spirit walk or walk at night through dreams or with their spirits could leave their bodies and go fight wars with the evil witches. So the idea with this one was that it's kind of like a different take on Druid where it's not so focused
Yeah,
on more deeper connections to nature in different ways, but more like how you can use your spirit to go out there and be a front runner and almost a little bit not I don't want to say tank, but like
yeah.
a different type of druid on the battlefield kind
Yeah,
of thing.
that's what I've really liked. Like
Hmm.
that's why I thought it's interesting and like refreshing at the same time because you get to project your spirit out and like which will do the fighting mostly, but like your body is also there, which is also it can be destroyed. Am I right? So it creates this like different mindset for the druid player to just like their like reflexes are mostly depend on just transforming into an all bear and like go to town. So it's gonna be a bit different for them as well, but I think it's refreshing.
All right. Moving on to the next one. This is my favorite.
And also at the same time,
Yeah.
we
Go.
have a question from Kieran who thought no art for the art domain, but no, it's coming up. But it's like a splash art. It's a combination like it's a combination of monk and art domain at the same time. So you're gonna be seeing it shortly,
Yep.
but you have to be patient for I guess one more.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, all
Right?
right.
In the alphabetical order.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah.
hello, Lulu.
All
All
right,
right.
so we have the fighter, so which is the only subclass that Sarp had a very strong opinion on. But
Yeah, yeah.
he just said it and went.
Yeah, yeah, we talked about Pavasari. I said I really wanted to have something like that, and then I went to do a mandatory military service.
Yeah, you got your wish.
Yeah, I got my wish.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this has a very central idea. This dude has a huge boar of skills, like he's carrying in his back, and which gives him the advantage. So okay, so let's hear more about that.
Yeah, so these guys were, you know, real historical
Yeah,
troops that had these big tower shields and they would like shoot
yeah,
crossbows or whatever from behind them. So we just came up with this idea of, you know, using that as a little mobile battle station, but also the fighter's shield would have magical abilities that they could
yeah,
use
yeah,
to threaten, warn, stupefy, or like scare, or even like do damage from the shield. So it's a little bit of like a Renaissance Captain America, Captain Venice, I guess, but a little bit. Um, but yeah, it's kind of cool. Like you can protect your
yeah,
friends by creating this little mobile battle station, or just kind of become a little one person army a little bit.
yeah. I also like the concept of just you kind of casting spells with the shields in a way that uh, is essentially goes towards you modifying your shield. So you're
And
essentially
like, don't be fooled by this being like a fighter subclass. Like, it has some crazy strong abilities, like as like door of a like shield gives them ability to cast a delayed fire, like fireball, blast
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
fireball, for example, and like a flesh to stone spell, divine word spell. So like obviously these are all not very strong in terms of like spell casting, but like getting access to that as a fighter is insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, especially at the later levels where you get like, yeah, like Divine Word is insane, and like a fireball as a fighter is opens up so many interesting ideas, and
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
just like take out a bunch of like oncoming cavalry with a cloud kill, and then go to town with your crossbow. It's just, I don't know, it's pretty sweet, I think.
Yeah, yeah, like it
There were
uses.
other I yeah, there were other ideas like that we bandied about for fighter and barbarian type things, again based on historical
Yeah, yeah.
fighting styles. Most of those, for those that might be wondering, I remember some people talking in Discord about like um, pike and shot and like
Mm-hmm.
Zweihander. A lot of that stuff will come up in like our combat stance thing that
Uh-huh.
I don't know
Yep.
if we want to talk about at all, but yeah, we wanted to go like kind of a weird but also historically
And
based
like
direction
at
with
the
this.
same time, I guess like I don't think a lot of people cares about this, but like if there was like a thing called D&D party composition meta, a fighter that can like that is tanky has access to like very strong, very strong like spells, and also generates some like physical damage on its own would be definitely on there, and because like and also because of the abilities that this subclass gives you, there is a lot of utility in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like this
Yeah.
like the ultimate jack of all trades sort of character.
Yeah.
So I don't think like it's visible at a glance how strong this subclass is.
Yeah, also talking about chats, like Ludus said, you don't need door when you are the door.
Yep.
And
And if it's like an alpine sort of adventure, you could use it to snowboard. Can
yeah.
be, you know.
Like I said,
Dual
ultimate
purpose.
utility.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
All
All
right,
right.
moving on to the monk.
Yes, monk with the cleric art. Let's do a deep dive into these guys
Okay,
before
so
getting to the
Tyrion, there you
abilities.
go.
Yeah.
All right, so we have the Way of the Marionette from the monk.
Yes.
Which is also like a callback to our first subclass, which is called what was the name of it?
Shadow actor?
No, no,
Is that it?
the monk subclass that we first, the Dervish,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh yeah,
oh,
the
the
Royal
monk one. Yeah,
Dervish.
sorry. I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
thinking of the
yeah.
bard one. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of similar to that in terms of like concept. There you go. Okay, take it away, Tyler.
Yeah, yeah. Again, we were trying to come up with something. Correct me if I'm wrong, though, because my brain isn't working properly. But like, we were trying to come up with some way to take something interesting from that historical era and twist it, make it different, and also do something different with monk that wasn't really being done. Most people know what monks can do
Mm-hmm.
and what they usually kind of the archetypes they usually fall into. But with our marionette monk, they're kind of using um, tethers to reality to connect them to other people, and then use those people or objects or things as their marionette puppets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yep.
it's kind of very puppet mastery, but like with the agile flexibility of a monk and the other options that monks come with as well.
And
Uh,
at the same time, like I like our interpretation in terms of like writing like a monk subclass, concentrating on not maybe like let's put it this way, concentrating on the movement and control abilities rather than you just being very dexterous and like very striky is also an interesting take on the monk as well. I think it's like something different if monk players out there like looking for something to play rather than like and like be creative with it instead of just like punching stuff very hard.
Yeah.
yeah. Also, we have two questions in the chat. When will the books come out? I think we are almost there.
I mean,
What?
like books are done actually. Like we are just waiting on like two art pieces and a couple of quick edits.
Yeah.
So like once they're done, we are just gonna edit it in the PDF and then send it to the printing house.
Yep.
Uh,
And
Unlike like digital games, the physical games don't have the benefit of like patching it out when you send them away. So like we are trying to be very meticulous in terms of
yeah, yeah,
our like printing.
yeah. Also, we have another question in the chat. Was there a specific reason we paired cleric and monk together for this art piece, though?
Not really. Like our the if you want the real answer, the real answer is like they were one of the first ones that like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
wrote down. So and the softer like more artsy reason is since we can illustrate them both with like a very stringy with like a symbiote thing and like a control like and a controller like marionette sort of thing
Yeah.
together. It just made sense in my head to pair these two very stringy characters together, so they can create like a good composition. That was like the minor arts reason, but if you're asking for the real reason is they were the first ones to be written.
Yeah, yeah.
And
We
the
have,
art was so good that it
yeah,
was really hard to not reuse it too, because it's just amazing. Again, shout out to Belgian.
yeah. We have two more questions in the chat. Was this a clever ploy to have a vacation in Venice paid by the company?
I
Haha.
mean,
Could be,
I
could
wish.
be. We're too busy for vacations. And another quick question: could the ability to control people or things through those tethers lead to the corruption of the character?
Potentially, yeah, definitely. It's a, like if you try to reach out to something that you can't control, like in the early stages, you are controlling objects, and
Mm-hmm.
then you build up to controlling people. The art, though amazing, makes it maybe makes it look like you're just controlling puppets, and but that's not the case. You're kind of binding toward minds and things like that. So it is, yeah. If you try to, in your folly, reach out and control a greater demon, then have fun.
Yeah.
Have fun.
All right.
Great question.
Great. Yeah. Next one. I mean, you guys have already seen the art for this because it's literally on the stream, but I think this could be my favorite art out of all of our subclasses. Oh, Paladin, Oath of the Embertide. The concept for this one is also really really good.
Yeah, so the concept for this one came from Doa. I remember we kind of struggled for a while coming up with a
Yeah.
cool paladin, but
yeah,
Doa
yeah.
came up with this idea of like, what if the paladin's oath is like revealing the truth, whether
Mm-hmm.
that be like revealing those who are hiding their true intentions or revealing creatures or monsters that are shapeshifted, or also just revealing the ugliness of reality for what it is. Like,
Yeah.
I could totally see this paladin walking up to a street preacher who's like selling, snake oil and lies to people,
Mm-hmm.
and then hitting them with
Mhm.
a sort of a rebuke that makes them kind of pop with boils and pustules and things. It's very like, yeah, like truth in deeds, truth in words. Don't
And
dissimulate.
also, like, what I also think that it is a bit different from like a regular paladin is, um, so like this sort of behavior, like this sort of a character is like very unbalanced in terms of like social cues and stuff. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
always like paladins are always like a hard class to navigate in terms of like role playing, but this is a bit different because this is not like a very uptight and like always on the like morally like a positive like correct side. It's not like that. Like it's just someone being brutally honest about every single thing and
Yeah.
every single concept in the world is like a very unbalanced sort of like a character. So if you're gonna play that, you need to be very truthful and honest to yourself as well, which
Mm-hmm.
is a trait that none of the paladins carry. So I like in the first glance, it doesn't seem like a very different paladin, but like I think it gives so many options to like role play,
Also, like,
which are
imagine the party playing around a character that hates any and all kind of deception roles by the party also. So,
Mhm.
like, this does give a strong, paladin
Yeah,
versus rogue
like
in the party
I see
vibes.
I see so much potential in terms of
Yeah,
like role playing
yeah,
this
absolutely, absolutely.
when you are having a hard time to like face the truth about yourself um in terms of like seeing the reality in your own
Yeah.
character in your own I don't know like problems and stuff. So I think it's a very interesting character
Yeah.
to role play.
One last thing I really want to add to the Oath of the Ember Tide is I think this vibe works really, really well in Historic Arcanum, where you have all sorts of like creatures trying to hide among like blend in with the crowd, and
Mhm.
like since you're a paladin, you're most likely to play like a good aligned character. it is your job to bring those people with bring those creatures with like malintentions to light and like punish them. I think this works really well with like Historic Arcanum as a concept also. Moving on.
And
Yeah.
really quick,
Yeah.
just a little addition. It
Yeah.
could also be, if you wanted to, you could play this guy totally evil. Like
Yeah,
his mission,
yeah.
his mission is like to
Absolutely.
root out every like
Absolutely.
hidden angel hiding in Istanbul or Constantinople or whatever. And yeah, it could be really interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right,
All right.
another one. Ranger Tide Guardian. Of course, I'm gonna start with the art.
Yeah, so Tide Guardian was an attempt to I really wanted to like bring, because our story and a lot of the setting is urban, but Venice is was the king of the Mediterranean,
Yeah. Is
along
the
with the
city married
Ottomans.
to the sea?
And so we wanted to kind of honor that connection to their maritime dominion, and also bring in like the opportunity for characters who aren't coming from Venice. They're coming from like Northern Africa
Yeah.
or further east or
Which
or
was
whatever
like a
too.
natural choice to their
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of a ranger that guards over the waves and the things under and over, and trying to keep, because there are a lot of monsters over
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
the
and,
on
like,
on the surface and deep underground or underwater. So
I don't want to spoil it, but like it will be like a very good choice to start the campaign.
Yeah. Like I think the storyline works really well with this ranger, especially on like probably like first session.
hey, that's called insider trading, guys.
All right.
Arrest me.
All right, moving on to the next one. We have Rogue, the Echo Thief.
Oh yes, this is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Please introduce them to the rogue.
Oh man, I love this art too so much.
The
But
art is really, really good.
so the idea with this one was again trying to do something kind of totally different with Rogue, but I guess it has a little bit of origins in Arcane Trickster, like a rogue that can do
Yeah,
magic.
yeah, yeah.
But
Absolutely, absolutely.
but the Echo Thief, what they are all about is they are able to like sense the remnants of magic and then use those to their advantage. So they can't cast spells like a wizard or a sorcerer or a warlock or whatever. They cast spells and enhance their weapons and attacks by grabbing what like the flotsam and jetsam of what's around them. So if like a wizard casts a fireball, they can like take part of that weave in reality and take it and enhance their blades and or teleport or cause like big thunderous blasts and things like that.
Yep. And like the initial idea was like what I wanted to do with this subclass was basically I went up to Tyler and said like let's come up with like a different way of anti-magic sort of like rogue, which is like a I don't know, a mage slayer sort of thing. But we want to make it a bit different rather than like being very one Helsinki. Instead of like using that and manipulating that to like slay the mages were like a really cool idea in my mind. So I think we did a good job with that in terms of creating a mage slayer character in a way that is not dependent on, I don't know, potions,
Yeah,
ability,
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
and on the ability of the spellcaster to slay that spellcaster.
Yeah.
Yep. And once
This
again,
one-
yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Like once again, I think the idea of magic dripping like residues as you cast it is such a great idea that works really well with like Historica Arcanum, because like in this universe, whenever you cast magic, the reality pushes back against you. So that spell trying to like survive through the reality, trying to crunch on it, and you as a rogue trying like take it and cast another spell with the like spillover effects is I think like works really well with the setting.
And like in terms of like in order to make it more a little bit like solid in our viewers' mind, for example, like there's examples of magical sneak attack, elemental sneak attack in there. These are basically, for example, the elemental sneak attack is if you absorb a damaging spell, like I don't know, acid splash or something, from a spellcaster. If you get to absorb that, the next sneak attack that you'll do will deal that sort of damage.
Yeah, yeah.
Not only you absorb their like spell, you get to hit them back way harder.
Yeah.
Which is very cool, I guess.
Also, like this also brings to my mind because remember, guys, this is the first time I'm actually doing a deep dive into those subclasses. Imagine you're fighting against a creature that has a vulnerability to fire or like acid or whatever. Your wizard can also cast a spell on you, kind of damaging you a bit, but also allow you to hit again with that with that spell effect.
You have to net hammer that first.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. All right. Next one. This one is also really good. It's a Dramaturgy Sorcerer with such a cool art piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. First, feast your eyes on this, guys.
So anybody who has a theater, if any theater kids out there, you probably know the word dramaturgy, means something a bit different. But the idea with the name was like, kind of inspired by like Matt Mercer's like graviturgy and chronergy, like this urgy, like demiurgy type idea was like, the magic of is kind of how I was looking at it. So dramaturgy sorcerer is using their sorcerer's magic comes from like the spirits of performance and the spirits of the stage. It doesn't have to necessarily be a literal stage. It could be like, long ago sitting around a campfire type stories, but they are able to call upon spirits to aid them. They can send spirits out and then explode them for like their final bows. And yeah, again, it's like trying to do something different with sorcerer and a different type of crazy origin that they might have for their magic. And
yeah.
And again, the art is amazing.
Yeah. Nepo baby
The
subclass.
Nepo baby subclass.
All right.
Yeah.
Or as theater kids in the Renaissance D&D live stream. Yeah, like once you put it that way, it's obvious.
Yeah. All right. We now have like a very iconic subclass for the warlock.
Okay, so
Plague
this
Doctor.
is also one of the first things that we talked about because obviously that's the talk of the world back then.
Also, I think this is the first time these guys are seeing this art piece. So feast your eyes on it.
Right. So
I also before you say something, I also have to like mention all the like icons of subclasses. Classes look really really good. We have all of like these icons in the deck of cards for like legendary inspirations, and like we essentially use them throughout the source books. I think they look really really fire.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This is this is more of an on the nose type thing, but it's so fun and so cool to explore. Kind of like, I don't know how like the Paladin in the our Crusades book was a
yeah. You just have to do that.
But this one, like Plague Doctors are interesting because it's like an image everybody knows, but what they actually were is a little bit kind of sometimes misunderstood. They usually were not doctors. They like could just kind of diagnose if someone had a plague, and they were often like signs of ill omen because it often meant like shit's gotten too bad when they rolled up. But our idea here with it being a warlock with a patron is either your patron is a spreader of disease, obviously, or someone that like, maybe a being that isn't so malevolent with disease, but it's more of like using disease in a way to balance things out or to support other populations by culling others. And so it could be like a neutrally, maybe not good per se, I mean that's debatable, but neutral type patron or evilly. But they've got a lot of cool abilities. Someone in the chat, Leon earlier said like, which class lets me just control a bunch of plague rats? Here we are. There's actually like a sort of zenith level thing for them where you can turn into a bunch of plague rats. Potentially,
There you
if
go.
you want to go that way.
There you go.
I had a lot of fun writing this one. It was really, really a lot of fun. They have a special wand that they would use from a Palo Santo, and you can use that to make your spells more powerful.
Yeah, and also like giving warlocks like a real reason to be edgy, which is like justifying their edginess is like always something great, and like you can't get more edgier than this.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Wizard, School of
so
the Inkwielder.
This is like a very cool one. Like I remember like talking about this with Tyler. This is like a joint idea. So we were just exercising on like how can we like come up with a concept that will be very looked down on, but might be very cool. And the Dealbreaker Wizard is here to serve.
Yeah. And in the end, I think again, like shout out to Card. He was the one I think that cracked the code with this one. But it's basically again like a Pokemon type thing, like where it's an interesting type of wizard because they're obviously they have other wizard abilities, like they have their grimoire that they can write spells in and they prepare spells and all that. But this one's got this added ability of being able to make contracts with powerful entities and then writing that contract down in their spell book, be able to conjure those entities once again. So it's a little bit of like, yeah, like a little bit. I mean, again, like don't want to beat a Pokemon horse, but like it's a little bit Pokemon-y where like you can call upon your friends, or a little bit like if I could make the first Magic the Gathering reference of the night, a little
Ding,
bit
ding,
like
ding.
playing Magic the Gathering, where you are a spellcaster and you're like summoning creatures to
Yeah,
come.
yeah, yeah.
It's a little bit like it's got a little of that vibe, but obviously it's a contract. It's not like you're trapping these things. You're making an actual contract with them. So you've got to give them something in return. Often, depending on what they are, if it's a fae or genie, it
Uh-huh,
might
uh-huh.
be totally bonkers what you've got to do. You can kind of get an essence of them, or you could maybe later
Yeah, yeah.
uh, borrow them temporarily, like bring the actual thing into your book to bring them out later. But it's got a load of potential for like role playing and social,
And at the same time, yeah,
interactions.
the social part, the social potential is crazy because
Yeah.
if you're I don't know, if you just have two stats that you can rely on, one being charisma, you can easily like I don't want to swear in the
Go for it. Do it. Do
Do
it.
it.
Do it.
you can fuck people up with the bargains really really well.
Yeah, yeah,
Once they're written down, it's all yours, man.
yeah. Also, I want to mention that like this subclass fits really well with like the wider Historic Arcanum lore, because the first time we mentioned this side faction called like the Black Pens, the Siyah Kalems, is actually all the way back in Empires of the Silk Road. These are, by the way, this is like an actual real guy, Mehmet Siyah Kalem. His last name literally translates into like Black Pen, is the guy who illustrated all the like 13th century illustrations of genies, and like this subclass directly refers to it, with these like factions of ink wielders spreading throughout the world with power to essentially Pokemon genies and like fays and fiends and whatnot.
And
Yeah,
like I love we just like we just keep saying Pokemoning instead of like saying like a very professional summoner type
Yeah, yeah,
subclass.
absolutely,
Hey.
absolutely.
Ink Blaster, Ink Band. Yeah. Somebody Yuka in the chat said Faust mixed with Pokemon.
Yeah.
I love that. That's
Ink-
really good. Like sort of Faustian bargain.
Yeah, Inkmander.
Yeah.
All right.
This can be like a very 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 good way to I don't know, reflect on our creative vision.
Yeah.
Pokemon,
Right.
Magic the Gathering, and some.
Oh, we have the
stuff.
Carnifex.
Oh, whoops! I went to the best tier section. All right, we have the last two subclasses, which were like bonus ones, where you guys unlock via stretch goals. The first one, Ranger, the Carnifex.
Okay.
So yeah, the idea with Carnifex is your because I mean an unfortunate reality of that time was when we think of the Renaissance, we think of the good things like the art and maybe you think of like Machiavelli and
yeah.
politics, intrigue, the Borgias, but a lot of it was also like constant warfare, plague, stuff like that. So this ranger is a bit of somebody who lives in that world of constant violence and bloodshed and death, and is almost like a custodian or warden of the liminal space between life and death. Somebody who might, in their background, have been an executioner, somebody who might have been a medic or a healer, but they found themselves probably transient, wandering, and giving people proper deaths and not letting not letting like that veil become too thin, if we can say it that way.
Yeah. All right, next one. This is a Malandanti sorcerer.
Ooh, baby.
Okay, I actually haven't read through this one. Is this kind of related to Benandanti, the druid?
Yes, it is.
You
In
guessed
fact,
it.
Yes.
the idea behind this one was, well, first off, just Malandanti is so amazing, and when the PDFs and the books come out, there'll be some resources I'll put in the historical references that can if you really want to dig into them, into the history of the Malandanti, you should. You can read those, but like, yeah, they were the evil, or quote unquote evil counterpart to the Benandanti. These were these sort of very typical, like, witches riding sorghum brooms and messing with your dreams and ruining crops, or at least that's what the Inquisition said about them in history. But yeah, these are the Malandanti are also in the bestiary too, but this is your way into becoming, yeah, like a really sorcery, a sort of Stevie Nicks sorcerer, sort of like really witchy woman vibes or witchy person vibes. There's a lot of cool stuff going on with the abilities to, you know, walk and shift and use your words and powerful curses and things. And in fact, this is also, we did this in City of Crescent, but there were some subclasses that, you know, depending on how things are going for you, you could sort of shift into a different one. Like with Warlock and Sorcerer with the Djinn possessed and Djinn bound.
Yep.
So this was an idea of like, what if we give, because I think that was, as far as I remember, pretty popular with people.
Yeah.
We wanted to give an option.
In the first title, this was something that I fought with my life to bring it live, because in, let's say, our more traditional way of D&D players in the team back then was they just looked at my idea and said heresy. So, but I did my best to create this concept, and like, I'm just so happy that we are able to follow that route again.
I also love, like, these are like cosmetic hex effects, and like number 6 is hilarious. Sometimes when you are really irritated by someone, something very small but very annoying happens to them. just imagine all the like role-playing shenanigans you can pull off with this. We didn't have to write 5 more options. Everybody's gonna pick this one.
And also, I want to point out that like you guys want us to write 2 more subclasses in our stretch goals, and we willingly, without any pressure, wrote 1 more ranger.
Something
that no other D&D company does.
We are showing ranger the love it deserves. Alright, now we're done with the subclasses. Let's move on to the best theory section of Echoes of Renaissance. Before we do that, do you guys have anything to add?
Okay, so I'm just gonna be annoying and like just keep mentioning it. Historica Arcanum is is ready. Historica Arcanum is ready to go out in a month. It's the link is there if you guys want to check it out. We would love you guys if you just follow the project.
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome. That's all. Thank you. That was my TED talk.
If I could add, I'll add something. Thanks everybody for in the Discord that, you know, when we released the earlier subclass work that we were doing, people gave some great feedback, and some changes were implemented too, like about, you know, making things more clear and changing a couple things around. The Echo Thief, for example, changed quite a bit. So thanks a bunch to everybody who's active in there and helping us out.
And I also see a lot of Ranger enjoyers in the chat, so thank you guys so much.
Ranger connoisseurs.
All right. So, all right, this was very fun to look at the subclasses with you guys. So please let us know which one is your favorite, which one piqued your interest the most, or which one gives you a lot of ideas to roleplay. We would love to hear those. We still have time if you guys have feedbacks before we send them over to the printing house. So this is still a very good time if you guys want to talk about any of those. And now we are going to move on to our best theory, and then we're going to talk about the survey results.
Yeah, we actually have to do like a quick run through of of the bestiary because we're running out of time. We have so much stuff to cover. Before we do anything, I think you guys have knocked it out of the park with all the like all the visual design in the bestiary, like the sides of the pages, the entire look of it. It's just
By the
gorgeous.
way, you guys, we are seeing all the love from like in the chat to our artists and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be transferring them to our artists.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, you are very welcome in their behalf.
yeah. All right.
All right, so since we are limited on time, Tyler, let's just do the highlights. What do you want to go for first?
Yeah, oof, there's so many. We could talk about Angos because he's been a because we're here
Yeah,
right now, and
we
I
even
don't
have
want
a
to spoil
miniature
anything,
for
but
it.
like
he's
he's a character. He's a
he,
character. Like I'm just gonna say that, and you're gonna be seeing a lot of him in the campaign.
yeah, he's been kind of with us since the beginning of the adventure, like with the art, a lot of the early art, and then the mini art.
Yeah,
So this is him in the bestiary done lovingly by and creepily by our one of our artists, Yamur. Just
yeah,
amazing. So the idea behind this guy was sort of like a ferryman, uh, uh, Charon type guy, but somebody who's tied to a particular city and knows all the secrets of that city. So
hmm,
invariably, this guy is going to be a potential danger in the early game, depending on how it goes, or a potential source of information.
hmm,
Um, and without spoiling too much, the gondoliers of Venice are all
yeah,
those in the know are working with him or for him.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So okay, I don't know if you're spoiling, but like
no,
uh,
no, I don't
if
think so. Not too much.
if you see a character like that, just navigating in the canals, you just know he's not just your everyday friendly gondolier. So this character and his snakes are serving as like a network,
yeah,
let's say the least, without spoiling anything. Which is like a very, very important character in the campaign. It's a very formidable opponent. You shouldn't be you shouldn't taking him on in the first sessions, or it gonna result probably like a TPK.
yeah, yeah. Also, I really love the fact that like most of our bestiary is not just like bosses that you just beat and move on. These characters have a character like these are actual characters, not just beasts to kill. You will have a lot of chance to converse and like get information out of a lot of these entries. Their
Yeah, and
social skills also enter into play, and we wrote the bestiary section with that in mind.
yeah, definitely. And like we don't have a lot of like all-knowing characters in Historic Arcanum because like it's not
Yeah,
very but we have a lot of characters can play the part of like a beholder and something.
yeah,
So this is probably one of those. Obviously not as
yeah.
OP as those, but like this is Historic Arcanum. It's kind of a bit more grounded than your everyday fantasy.
Yeah, yeah. Also, one thing to mention here for people who have been like looking at like essentially diving deep into historic Arcanum lore, almost all of these information peddling characters have like snake-like traits to them.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Well, finally you picked it up.
Yeah, yeah. It's me who picked it up, right?
This is my plan all along. Anton Winter asks, can any of them become allies too? Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely,
We are
absolutely.
trying our best to like write them as much as like logical.
Yeah.
They don't have like end the world sort of plans all the time, and they're gonna follow their plans no matter what. No, they're very social
Mhm.
characters that you can interact and maybe even manipulate.
All right, moving on to other highlights. Tyler, tell me when to stop.
Okay, yeah, we'll do. Yeah, one thing I want to add, just guys, we're kind of like
Yeah,
going past some of them. Like, we don't have to talk about Artisan of Venice and Astronomer, but like
yeah,
one thing I want to shout out is a lot of the a big chunk of the bestiary is there as a helpful toolkit to help you like populate a city
yeah,
too. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I feel like bestiaries often sort of because of the name bestiary sort of tend to like big chunky boys, big monsters. We have those, but also kind of tying back to what you guys were saying about the social type
Hmm.
characters. We wanted to fill this with a lot of yeah, people that
Yeah.
you would actually run into, like the capitano, the sopracamito, like the captains and galley captains of the
Mhm.
ships that would be coming in every
Hmm.
single day to Venice, one of the, most densely populated important cities of the time.
Yeah.
So there's like astronomers, there's a merchant of Venice because
Hmm.
we had to.
Yeah.
Uh, Arsenalotti are there, like the arsenal workers. The arsenal was uh it's a massive part of our story, but also it's a
Yeah, yeah.
massive
It
important
was.
thing in
Yeah.
Venice, the shipyard where the engines of industry, the Venetian industry was like it was massive. It took up like 15% of the city's area, and also they were churning out these
Yeah.
galleys all the
Yeah.
time. Super important part without spoiling anything, part of our story, and they show up in here too.
Yeah.
And like
Um,
as you guys probably can imagine, this is something that I like to see in a source book when I'm DMing something, and this is basically our like vision throughout the whole project. So like we just want to come up with sections that will make sense to the DM.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
we are doing our best in order to accomplish that, and it's gonna only get better.
Yeah, and for my part, I really like the fact that like you don't have to just run all the human slash humanoid characters in the city as like nobles or like city guards and whatnot. You
Yeah,
actually have like stat sheets to just go to and roleplay them as fitting to their
yeah.
character. All right.
Yeah, we tried to open up the idea of like what a commoner could be. Also, the patricians, the nobles are in there too, and
Yeah.
a bunch of other types of people.
and like if it's not your like if it's your first time in Historic Arcanum, you'll kind of see that like the monsters and like creatures are not walking around the streets freely and
Yeah.
stuff. So,
Yeah.
like you need your human NPCs a lot.
Yeah. Also, just look at this art. Gorgeous. Canali Plague
Yeah.
Plague Beast art. Alright. We have some angels. These are important because you can actually use them in your Bard subclass, the College of
Yes.
Masquerade. So you can essentially like take on the roles of and like stat sheets of these beings. The angels, fays, fiends, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the monsters in here are either named or inspired by
Hmm.
Italian mythology and folklore. The tricky thing with Italy and with the myths and folklore is a lot of the monsters that are already in D&D are from
Yeah.
there. So we had to be kind of creative, but it was a fun challenge, like finding interesting, cool things like the Borda, which is a type of swamp hag, the Caladrius, which is a bird that sits near the sick's bedside and maybe
Yeah.
helps them, or maybe just says, "Oh shit, you're too screwed." We also brought in, yeah, the cult of Bacchus, which is very
Yeah.
important.
From at this point, like it's kind of impossible for us to not spoil anything
Yeah.
for the campaign. So you might like if you just freeze the screen and like start reading, you might have a pretty good idea of what's gonna happen. So you just have been warned, right?
Yeah, yeah. If you want to be on the player side of the story, maybe like cover your eyes for like a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
also years, maybe
For
talking
those that
about.
were following the villain reveal closely,
Yeah, yeah.
you'll this is, something you might be familiar with. This was actually interestingly like a cult or group that was thought to have died out long ago in Roman times, and we
Hmm.
kind of resurrected it and wanted to give like pay homage, not just with the cult of Bacchus, but with some other things, pay homage to like the fact that the Renaissance was connecting
Yeah,
back to classical times. A lot of it was, a rebirth of earlier ideas. So we wanted to, in some cases, bring, like with the cult of Bacchus, there's another one that's a monster called the Hinthial, which is a Etruscan ghost that pops up. Um, yeah, so cult of Bacchus is sweet.
yeah. We
Go
got
ladies.
we got gondoliers, as is fitting to.
Yep. So
What
those
is?
gondoliers are they can be information brokers, but those are kind of, potentially just normal
Yeah,
gondoliers.
yeah.
But you can fill in the ranks of when we finally release, what I don't think this is spoiling too much, but when we release the books and people can see the locations, like the setting
Hmm.
guide, you'll see that there are several factions you could ally with or go against in the city, and one of them is the gondoliers, the dread gondoliers that work with
Yeah.
Angos. So um yeah, a lot of cool stuff there for sure. There's the the guy coming up that's the Hintial, the spider guy,
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right.
spidery looking guy.
Yeah,
Nuts.
the art piece is just absolutely gorgeous. All right, let's move on. Again, we have some like
demons,
yeah.
yeah.
These are can also be used by the bard, right?
Some of them, yeah, not
Not all of them, yeah.
Ilmazorol, he's too powerful, but
Yeah.
some of them, yeah, like can definitely. The idea was filling it out with things that you can,
Uh huh.
because there aren't that many low level
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Fey, fiends, and celestials in the what do you call it? OGL, SRD.
yeah,
What do you
yeah.
call it?
All right,
Dante, there we go. We
Malandante.
talked
There we
about them.
go. There we go. There we go. The art piece is just gorgeous. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're quite powerful, and there aren't that many of them that are, things, ladies that you would want to meet early in your campaign. But yeah, they're quite cool. We wanted to do some, it's much like the Cult of Bacchus and the women that ran it. They're a very maligned group in history
Mhm.
because a lot of the history is written by, those in power and people that were in
Yeah,
power were like nobles and the church. So witches are bad, but what if they were also cool?
absolutely. All right, marionette with once again a gorgeous art piece. I also love like the back layer with close-ups to
Yeah.
creatures. Ultramarino,
Yeah,
palace
this is
guard.
guys straight up like wanted to give a reference to real history. These
Hmm.
guys were also known as the Schiavoni. They're the kind of the Venetian version of the Janissaries.
Yeah.
They were from Dalmatia, brought and brought to serve and became very loyal servants of a soldier crack like the crack infantry of the
Yeah.
Venetian government, but they were often palace guards and infantry. So we wanted to give them some love, and they obviously they can be a faction you connect to or see in the story as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Moving on. The
Right.
Order
Yeah.
of the Scepter and the Serpent.
This one is like a personal like little
Hmm.
love because it's kind of invented by me, but it's kind of related to cults.
Hmm.
Cults of medicine, cults of Asclepius, the god of medicine.
Hmm.
They're an order that, yeah, they're the pharmacists, the doctors devoted to furthering knowledge and furthering, cures with all the, horrible plagues that were coming in
Hmm.
into a place like Venice, which were really awful. Um, and working against other orders of chaos and disorder, like the cult of Bacchus and things
Hmm.
like that. So
Hmm.
yeah, some cool pharmacist mages,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah. Also another important part of the storyline and of the setting, the Ottomans in Venice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've
you
got a couple of different. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Doa.
you can expect like a very well-known one at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, some great art here by Yalmur, and yeah, we've got a couple different ones. Obviously, if you want to pull some stats from like City of Crescent too, they
Yeah.
could work, although that is like a few hundred years after. But we've got a couple versions, mostly sort of naval experts
Hmm. Hmm.
because of reasons.
Yeah,
But
because reasons. History.
that old chestnut history.
Yeah.
Here's some nobles, and we have a plague doctor
Hmm.
versions. If you don't have anybody who plays one, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, even if you do have one as a warlock, there are other ones you could have as populating your city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
More creatures, the drowned ones.
Yeah, drowned ones, and often are following something called a Ragna or the Ragni plural, which is like it's kind of undeady drowned monster on stilts that when it walks, it sounds like creaking ships
Hmm.
and groaning wooden platforms. So it's often an ambush predator in the foggy canals of Venice.
I love the comment. History, in my Historica Arcanum, it's more likely than you think.
That's good.
That's good. All right, moving on. A lot more, I guess, human type data sheets.
Yep.
Once again, to populate the setting with more like down-to-earth characters with unique personalities.
Yep.
Lord of the Night. Who is this guy?
Lord of the Night was an actual thing in Venetian history too. There were six, well, there still are. There are six districts in Venice, and there was a Lord of the Night for each of them. They're a little bit like a mix of like inquisitors with night watchmen, like captains of the guard. So they would be responsible for law enforcement, particularly at night. So a little bit like a mix of Sam Vimes from Discworld with Batman, with
I was going to say Batman.
with like Cardinal Richelieu from Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a real piece of work. In the setting guide that we have the Signori della Notte for each, like all six of them, and they're people that you could ally with. They've all got their interesting things that are going on in their lives, and yeah, pretty cool.
Yep.
At the same time, thank you, Mento and Winter, for the praise of the art. But at the same time, it's sicker than you think. But like because of the layout reasons right now, in the stream, we are not able to do it like a double page.
Yeah. Like this art piece is just like a full spread rather than just this one one page here. All right, more humanoids. It's like with a good distribution between like higher leveled ones, mid level ones, and like low level characters.
Yeah, like this bestiary is like a very full-fledged one because you'll get to populate the whole city with all of
absolutely.
like in terms of like every single profession, every sort of a stat sheet, anything you need will be in the tree. With a lot of original characters and stuff. So you don't need to run them all as commoners and stuff. So you'll have options.
Also, like needless to say, but this is also a great resource to just pull on NPCs for like homebrew campaigns rather than just using like noble or like commoner stat sheets.
Yeah. Right. And
street actors, street acrobats, musicians, patrons of the arts, some rich people that would pay for all of it.
Vendor. Do we have like a My Cabbages cameo here somewhere?
I mean, the Cabbages is kind of a big inspiration.
Like I kind of expected there to be like a My Cabbages exclamation mark ability somewhere.
And at the same time, it's also like very interesting to see how I don't know, like let's put it this way. Once you go through the bestiary, you'll understand like why there's like a big nuance about like festival characters and stuff, which is a huge part of the story as well. So you'll be able to see a lot of characters that you'll come across in like a festival, in like a place of celebration. So those are also very well written, which will be very helpful in the campaign.
Yeah, I love the glass golem. Like as a concept, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, glass making was a huge thing in Venice, in the island of Murano. So there are a couple NPCs in the bestiary that are glass makers, and there's a sort of secret faction of them doing other things. And glass golems, it seems like, well, why don't I just break him? But he does some cool stuff, for sure. Glass golems.
All right.
Like the one good thing about like writing for history, which is also very hard because you have to you have to do a lot of research in order to do that. But like one thing about writing for history is once you sit down and like see what was the deal back then in terms of professions, in terms of disease, in terms of characters and states and rules, you pretty much have a story in your hands. Like when you read through all of them. So glass making was a huge thing. Glass makers was a huge thing. So Glass Golem wrote itself down, which is amazing.
Yeah. All right, this is the end of the best series section. We're now moving into the legendary inspirations.
Can I mention one more quick tiny little thing about this?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I didn't see a comment about it, but I'll say it anyway because I can't stop bloviating. So apologies if someone wants me to shut up. Just write it in the chat. But
shut up, Tyler.
with the names of a lot of the figures and monsters and things, we tried to pull from. I mean, obviously Italian, but also Venetian too, because they're pretty different in many ways. So. Some of the monsters you might, for those who are actually Italian speakers, you might be like, well, that's not what we would say, because we tried in some cases to get like a very local, sometimes even like a more historically accurate old style name for some of these things. Like the clock keeper has a particular Venetian name and things like that. So some of the spelling is more Venetian, some of it's more Italian, which is based on the Tuscan dialect. And we wanted to kind of, I don't know, create kind of a cool mix. So hopefully it is cool.
Yeah, I think it is worth mentioning. Like, I think Echoes of Renaissance is the first time we are kind of moving out of our comfort zone of doing Near Eastern settings. So we really took the time to make sure like everything is well researched, and this comes with like all the spellings, all the like localized cultural entries and whatnot.
And like as always, we have the lies we told section, which is creative liberties that we took on that are not exactly true in terms of history, but we did this anyway. There's a lot of historians that like act as advisors in the project. Tyler is also a historian, let's say.
That's stretching it, but sure.
Like in terms of like majors, in terms of university degrees.
Yeah. As a historian and an anthropologist, I kind of agree with you.
All right.
Lover of history would be more accurate, I suppose.
All right.
But fair.
Now we're gonna go down the deck of legendary inspirations, and before we get to it, why don't one of you guys explain what this section is all about?
Okay, so the idea was again doing something that will make sense in terms of like making. I think inspirations, giving a reroll is like a sort of a dull rule.
Yeah.
In my opinion, as a DM, I don't love it because sometimes my players do something amazing and I want to reward them, but like just giving them a one reroll is always I felt always underwhelmed by that. So we come up with this concept of giving very like class specified inspirations to the characters.
Yeah.
In a shape of it will be like decks. So you get to draw a card and see what sort of like a advantage you will get once you're rewarded with the inspiration by your DM.
Yeah, and we also wanted to include this for the within the book also, so people who grab the PDFs.
Obviously. You guys are seeing the table version of it, but it's designed as a deck.
Yep.
But like even if you didn't order the deck or something, you're gonna have access to this rule set.
Yeah, and obviously there are ways of using it. You can always cash those in for a free reroll if that is more to your liking. If you are a DM who really likes to take matches into their own hands, you can, instead of like pulling a card or rolling from the inspiration table, you can also just say, okay, you got this to one of these entries here. I'm gonna kind of quickly go through all of the inspiration tables, but most importantly the artworks, because they're absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Tyler, feel free to stop me if you have like any of the entries you want to highlight, because there is some really fun stuff here.
For sure, yeah. I mean, it might be like too many weeds to start climbing into, but well, that's not how we say it. You know what I mean? But yeah, for example, like instead of just getting advantage, you might get something like an extra spell slot for certain casts. So you might get an extra bit of healing. You might get an extra duration to your rage. And these, but just to keep them a bit more agnostic, we kept the word rage here, by the way, instead of using revel.
Yeah.
In case your barbarian didn't choose the new subclass. Or like adding to your jump speed, or giving you an extra ability to command an ally if you're a bit more of a commandery fighter. I mean, a lot of cool options. And the cards that you get, it's not here in the list that will be in the book, but if you get the cards, you also get some nice descriptive like flavor text to go along with it too, which was one of my favorite things to do in this, because like I mean, here's the second Magic the Gathering reference. I really am a sucker for like really good concise flavor text,
Mm-hmm.
which, there's a lot of it in Magic, but there's also a lot of bad. But I really had a lot of fun, like last summer, late summer, early fall, writing those flavor texts for these cards, trying to like sum up and calling upon very many different. There are a lot of Easter eggs in there, from like Radiohead to a place I studied in China when I was in college, to like there's a bunch of random like references in there with names and things, but it's quite cool and evocative. Hopefully, what people find it to be.
And like at the same time, the artworks that you are seeing here are actually the card backs that we
Yeah.
designed each class. So this, what we're seeing is gonna be your card back. If, for example, what is on right now, the monk is on, for example. Like
Yep.
you're gonna be holding one of those cards.
Carl Nilsson asked.
Like in order to just simulate what's going on, let's read a couple of, for example, like a couple of the inspirations that you're gonna come across.
Before we do that, Carl Nilsson asked, will the cards be available for pre-order? I think right now they're only available on Echoes of Renaissance Collectors box sets, but we will make them available as soon as we actually do produce them. So they will be available to be purchased directly from our website or in any like upcoming Metis Creative Kickstarters.
And like I'm pretty sure like once the word is out with this system of
Yeah.
using inspirations, I think they're gonna be a hit. Like I'm not talking about like anything financial, but like in terms of gameplay, this makes so
Yeah.
much sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about a couple of like easy examples.
Yeah.
One of your white bread.
Yeah. Yeah, regain use of Channel Divinity. Easy, simple, is probably better than a reroll on a lot
It's
of.
definitely way better than a reroll.
Yeah, yeah. Or.
For example, like number 15, you can cast Death Ward on up to 4 creatures
Yeah,
of your choice.
yeah.
Like, they might be some things, yeah, back to what you said, the DM might want more control over this, which is totally fine. But yeah, some of them have some really cool, powerful options.
And
This-
like it
yeah.
also gives you like an idea to what to wait for in the game as well. For example, it's of course fun to reroll dice, like if you're in a dire need, which you have ability to in like rules as written. But at the same time, I think it's more clutch to have another go with the Channel Divinity. Like for the next 3 rounds, you have advantage on concentration check. For example, like you know that you will have this ability going into that fight, so you're gonna play according to that, which makes so much game like in terms of game design so much sense to me.
Yeah, like on 19 until the next long rest, you have advantage on charisma checks when in an urban center that is not hostile to you. Like imagine pulling this up for like a in place of an inspiration and use this in like a shopping session.
Yeah, like friends,
Yeah.
countrymen. It's like the
Yeah.
Mark
We
Anthony
tried
totally
our
changing.
to like make it more appealing than a reroll, but I mean like the power of reroll is undeniable. But like
Yeah.
you right now like you guys have like a pretty good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if you're like, if you've got that card, for example, that you have charisma check advantage in a crowd, and you're like, well, this isn't really going to work for us anytime soon because we're stuck in a swamp, you could always cash that in for a regular
absolutely.
advantage.
And in terms of like game design, our idea was to make this as hassle-free, as bloat-free as possible. So just pull a card from your deck, or just roll from this table, or just DM can hand you a card, or DM can hand you like one of these abilities. It's essentially the same with having an inspiration token marked next to your character sheet. So this is like, at least in our playtest, like almost completely bloat-free.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and all of those card breaks are very tattooable. I think.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to have these as tattoos,
Yeah,
just
like
write
if you're
to
like a
us.
very strict rock player, like a warlock player, there you go.
All right, awesome.
Please let us know what you guys think about them. I think they're amazing. Kudos to like Yamur and Tyler and Card for writing
Yeah.
those.
Yeah,
And to Yalmor for the art.
yeah.
Yep.
This is just gorgeous. The wizard one. All right, I think we are at the end of our live read through.
Yeah, which means we're gonna go to we're gonna go and talk about what was the results of our last survey about the next Historic Arcanum.
Yeah.
Before we go into that, a couple of disclaimers.
No, before we get to that, do you guys have anything else to add about the live read through, like the content here? Like final words before we close this section of the live stream?
I can't think of anything. Just really excited to get the stuff in your guys' digital hands, and then,
Physical hands.
and then physical hands. But there's always like a little bit of, final check time to, like, if you're, I don't know, if you notice something that the editor, aka me, has not seen,
all right,
that's always great.
We have a question. Ask this in Discord, but was there any particular option that the staff was excited about? So, the staff is excited about a lot of things. Let me tell you. So, we kind of try to only write down the options that we are really excited about. So there's only 12 of them. But we all have our favorites, which we're gonna talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
And are there any subclasses you were excited about end up cutting? Yes.
Yeah.
Lots. Yeah. I guess it's safe to say we have ideas for next 15 subclasses. But Tyler, do you want to mention any of those?
Well, there are a couple because they came up in Discord too a while back. We talked about ideas like how could we maybe try to do a cool pike and shot, or
that's what I was going to mention,
or like a Zweihander, and we didn't come up with anything that we thought was honestly very interesting and very different. So, but we did find, without spoiling too much, we did find ways to incorporate different types of martial archetypes and combat variations into our other deck that we're releasing with this, called the combat stances.
Yep.
So for those of you who might be a tiny bit disappointed that those extra subclasses weren't like Zweihander or Longsnecked or something like that, don't fret. You'll have ways to incorporate that sort of thing into your games. But yeah, other than that, there was nothing that we've really agonizingly cut that I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, I we had a version, we had the version differences.
Yes, yeah.
For example, in Paladin, we were also considering Rogue to do that, but for example, we had a way more specific and a bit more grim version of this Ember type, the secrets sort of character. For example, in my first design, it was mostly a character that is tasked with knowing the truth about something unbearable, let's say, knowing a secret, agonizing, and it has the burden to carry that throughout all of his life without the idea was either knowing it or not knowing it, but we will give the character as a necklace, for example, a secret that he doesn't know, or a memory that it's agonizing, either one of those. And this character was tasked with carrying it all of his life, so which will give a very specific story to a character. Are you gonna look at it? Are you gonna say this? Are you gonna say anything about it and stuff? But we ended up with going more general in terms of secrets, for example.
And there was some we were thinking about getting inspiration from Dante's Divine Comedy and Machiavelli, but we decided that a lot of that stuff has been done in many ways before, and wasn't going to maybe be done very well by other people too. So we didn't go down that road either.
Yeah. A couple things that I really wanted to talk about before concluding the live read through. I think Echoes of Renaissance have been the Historica Arcanum release that has the biggest amount of substance for any Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. You have all the human NPCs that you can use. You have the deck of legendary inspirations, and you have the Art of War, where we essentially overhaul the entire physical combat in Dungeons & Dragons. I think it has been content-wise the biggest, and also art-wise. Like, I think this is not me. This is Doğa, our creative director, and all of our art team. They really knocked it out of the park with the layouts, with the art pieces, with the design work. I think this could be one of the best-looking RPG products ever, and I'm not exaggerating here.
And thank you in behalf of all of our like artists. They are the ones that deserve this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right.
All right.
Let's move on to the next Historic Arcanum.
All right. I'm closing the
like I said,
PDF.
before we go into that, a couple of disclaimers. We are very eager to hear what you guys are gonna say about like the next setting of Historic Arcanum. But at the same time, there's probably a lot of people doing creative jobs in their like personal lives. As you all know, like doing something creative is not very straightforward in terms of like picking a setting, so, which is gonna be our reality for the next year. So we always try to hear you guys. We always want to know what you guys are thinking in terms of what is interesting in history and stuff. But this doesn't mean that we are 100% gonna do the setting that like came in the first ended up being the most voted one. We are gonna try. We are gonna try to make it work. But this doesn't mean it's gonna end up as the next Historic Arcanum. But the probably one of the top ones are gonna be the next Historic Arcanum. But let's say it's not definite.
Yeah, I mean, setting next Historic Arcanum setting could be a different thing. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But all right, let's get to the survey results. So, what I imagine this section to be all about is I'm going to be, talking to you guys, going through all the options. We can say a couple of sentences for each one, and then I'm going to ask what you guys think this scored in terms of one, votes, and two, which place it is you guys think it is. I'm not going to reveal the best performing one yet, but the top one receives 372 votes. Keep that in mind. And in total, we got around 2,000 votes. A lot of votes are turning around, by the way.
A lot of votes.
a lot of votes. And this is to say, like, only 80% of people completed their survey. So we have 20% more coming. All right. Without further ado, first answer. Ancient Greece Trilogy. Journey into the depths of the Cretan Labyrinth to fight the deadly Minotaur, to the fall of Troy, and to the Underworld itself in this exciting trilogy of setting and adventure.
Okay, first of all, let's say like guessing the votes is impossible. So
but like
let's try to guess where
the range,
up, like in the upper in the upper section, or like is it middling, or is it like down there with the ones that are unlucky? Let's say. I think Ancient Greece is like a classic, no pun intended, but like it needs to be on the top choices.
Yeah, it's probably one of the more popular ones.
Like, my only concern will be, and like I'm being 100% honest right now, it being like very overused. Because there's a lot of versions of how Ancient Greece is like I don't know, executed in like every single big franchise, like this being literally like in the gaming, there is a lot of examples, and there's books, there's plays, there's movies. So like I'm not gonna start counting those, but like
I think we could do a really good job, but it wouldn't be my top choice just because it's been so it's everywhere. Like there's a new Christopher Nolan Odyssey movie coming out. There's of course the Assassin's Creed. And it's just, I mean, it's great, but it's just, it wouldn't, I mean, I would love to do it, to be honest, but also it wouldn't be my top choice.
I mean, I was thinking the same thing with you, and for the theater kids out there, like I've seen Hades Town lately again, so it changed my mind again.
Yeah, before announcing like which place this was and how many votes it got, I got a couple of things to say too. First up, this is the first time we are putting out the option for a trilogy out there. We have two options that are trilogies: Ancient Greece and Constantinople. So doing like instead of just one very focused setting and adventure, we would have been doing three laid out versions with like different thematics and settings and adventures included in each entry in the trilogy. The second thing is the part that excites me most about the Ancient Greece trilogy is the Fall of Troy. Because if you guys have been following us from since City of Crescent and with the latest released DLC, the Serpentine Door, Fall of Troy has both like a very geographical importance for us, since that it is in modern day Turkey, and lore-wise interesting because it is one of the starting points of Historica Arcanum universe. With that being said, here is how many votes it got and which place it scored. It had a whopping 304 votes, and it was the second place.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, like top 3 has very, very like very close amounts of votes. Like it's like at one point I even like texted on Discord saying that like you guys are not giving us an easy time deciding what you actually want. All right, the second entry. This is Constantinople trilogy. Always has like a special place in our hearts because we're from Istanbul. Here is the marketing blurb for Constantinople trilogy. Explore 3 books centering on the marvelous city of Constantinople through the ages. The era of Justinian, when the Byzantine Empire was at its height, bear witness to the fall of Constantinople in 1453, and revisit the city of Crescent during 19th century as the first Historical Arcanum title is retold.
Okay, so like this
This is
something that we're not gonna be impartial to. Obviously, like you said,
Yeah.
so it holds a very dear place to our hearts, and at the same time, like as like a as like a manager for the company, I want to do City of Crescent again. Like,
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
do I want to do it justice. I still love the book. I still love the idea and the
storyline.
execution, the
Yeah.
storyline, which is still like one of my favorite storylines in Historic Arcanum universe. But like I want to do it again with the knowledge today
Yeah.
I have. So like it will be like a newer version. It will be like there's a lot of like stuff that I want to change right now when I take a look at it. But at the same time, it's a very romantic need.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you say, Tyler?
And I mean, I agree with that. Also, I would be super excited to do a Justinian era
Yeah.
Constantinople, like with the Nike riots and like what's his name, John the Cappadocian, all these like crazy characters, Theodora. It would be really, really, really fun and evocative. And then like the fall of Constantinople too. I was also wanting to try to squeeze the Fourth Crusade in there too, but that might be a bridge too far. But
Yeah. We can't do a tetralogy before we do a
At the same
trilogy.
time, there's something that we completely forgot. Lulu just reminded us of if you have to do the City of Crescent again, you will have to do the cookbook again too, which is a delight.
Yeah, giving stat sheets to like different meals
Yeah,
is such
still
a
the best
devilish
idea we
idea.
had. Still the best idea we had.
All right. I mean,
I think this one probably scored pretty high.
yeah, this option slaps.
I mean, yeah, like
not
for
gonna lie.
like some boring numbers to you guys. We have one of the highest rates of like returning backers in Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Which is confirmed by a manager in Kickstarter, by the way. So like there is probably a lot of people still following us from the Istanbul days.
Yeah.
So I think they voted pretty pretty
They voted as a block.
already convinced voters, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
So I think they voted, and it's gonna end up in like the upper sections.
All right, Constantinople trilogy with a whopping 288 votes scored third in
Interesting.
the
Yeah.
next Historic Arcanum
I
survey.
I wanted it to be the first, but I'll take it.
All right, the third entry. The quintessential Rome. Delve into the role of the War of the First Triumvirate and the subsequent assassination of Julius Caesar, finding your way through a glorious and dangerous world of plots and secrets. What do you guys think about this one?
Again, suffers from the same
Yeah.
that ancient Greeks suffered, but
Yeah.
in like a less exciting version. So I think like it's like you can't go wrong with Rome, obviously, but I think it didn't end up being one of the top ones because it doesn't have like the fantasy elements of ancient Greece.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's overdone.
Yeah, I mean there are ways you could make it interesting and different than everything else. Like just for example, stay away from the gladiator arena. Because there's some film that came out recently. I don't know what it was called. Like
Gladiator 2.
Was that it? Just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. For me, it doesn't. It's not really my top choice. I could see it getting. I could see it being popular, but
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, it would be harder to make our own, to be honest. Maybe
Yeah.
not too hard, but it would be harder than like
Yeah, I
than
mean, like
ancient Greece
it's
would, for
hard to
example.
say something new about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
For me, the only like redeeming quality of quintessential Rome was like it's such a big storyline with a lot of like easily recognizable characters that we can now that we can use, like we used Baldwin and Era of the Crusades. It would have been a really like a standout
Yeah,
piece.
but don't you think like there's like a huge difference
Yes,
in like
absolutely,
characteristic
absolutely,
like
absolutely.
Julius Caesar and Baldwin?
Absolutely. And I wouldn't have voted for this one, but I'm happy that it was here. And it scored on, I don't know which place it scored, but it scored on the lower half with 147 votes. Still not
It's
the lowest,
heartbreaking,
but
but
yeah,
still.
yeah. All right.
Still respectable.
Yeah, it's a respectable 147
Yeah,
votes. All right, Age of Vikings. A setting where the great Vikings hailing from Scandinavia change the shape of the world. Witness the world where the great heathen army roams free and wild. Before we get to you guys, like this was also one of the ideas we had to make it into a trilogy. Like a great heathen army, Bjorn Ironside's venture into the Mediterranean, and one more, I think. I don't remember which one that was.
Maybe going to
English one.
Vinland and going
Yeah,
to
it was
or
Vinland.
you-
It was Vinland. Yeah. All right, what do you guys have to say for the Age of Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't want to repeat myself again, but one of the overdone.
history repeats itself.
Yeah,
so
history does
repeat yourself.
itself.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think it's super interesting, by the way. Like, there's a lot of things to like consider when you're thinking about doing something related to Vikings, because Vikings has like this weird and like different setting from the rest of them. It also has like a fantasy version as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like for example, Rome is mostly about history and history only. For example, but like ancient Greece, Vikings also have this ability to draw you into like the mythology, into the legends, into the all the like fantasy stories that like belongs to Vikings as well. So I think it's like a very strong source for writing for D&D, but at the same time, it's like I said, it's overdone. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
Yeah.
on the fence about it because like it is everywhere. It's really overdone, but it's often like completely fantastical. Like like what we think because of the media, like TV shows and movies, what we think Vikings were like is not really what they were like most of the time. So there is a avenue where you could do Vikings more honestly and more vividly, giving like them more of a three-dimensional thing rather than just like these marauders, berserkers that they're often portrayed
Yeah,
as.
which is
The-
exactly what Carl Nielsen said in the chat. Age of Vikings is also such a commonly used setting, but I would love to see Historic Arcanum's take on it. Yeah, definitely. Like, that's what we are discussing right
Yeah,
now.
it would be cool. The only problem with something like that is like we obviously could bring our own take to it, but it's one of those weird, tricky times. Or I mean, I might be totally wrong about this, but I feel like some eras that have been so overdone by mass media and done sort of incorrectly, or just like, playing up the blood and guts and leaving out the other things like, more egalitarian horticulture, things like that. We often, when we watch something or read something, we kind of strive for the familiar, what we're used to. So
Yeah.
when you read something like history was actually like this, sometimes you're a bit disappointed. So it would be a weird dance where like we don't want the real, like, closer to the real thing, or our take on it to be like so different that it's not accessible, but
I
also
think,
making
yeah.
it, not just what everyone else does with Vikings.
Yeah,
It
I
would
think
be.
I think the funniest thing about Age of Vikings is for literally all the other options, we would need to add fantasy to it to set it apart from history. With the one with Vikings, we'd have to add history to it to pull it apart from the fantasy
Yeah, yeah.
tellings
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
Anyways, Age of Vikings, it scored right where around the middle of the options with 191 votes.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
respectable again.
quite respectable.
I mean, like, as long as it's up there with like a respectable vote, it's an option.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, the next one is going to be number one, but I'm thinking of skipping it for the last read. What do you guys think?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's
Okay.
All
do
right, and just if you guys go back to the surveys and see which one it is, I'm gonna start back from the last option, so you won't actually know which one I skipped out. All right, Qing Dynasty China. Set amidst the backdrop of the devastating Opium Wars and a Taiping Rebellion, the largest uprising in human history, you and your allies can choose to forge your way through the maddening gyre and make your names as heroes or villains. Modern Historic Arcanum, I love it.
This is a specialty of Tyler Denson, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
there's
for
at
it.
least one. There's at least one person who voted for this because this was my baby. I would like. I mean, there's always complications when like a white boring American dude like myself wants to work on something from a different part of the world. But Qing Dynasty China is amazingly fascinating, tragic. It's filled with a lot of crazy characters. The Opium Wars, the Taiping Rebellion was the largest uprising in world history that we know of, and was totally bonkers. Like a guy who thought he was the Chinese brother of
Yeah,
Jesus,
yeah.
took over a big swath of, and did really interesting things, and created his own little government for a while.
Hmm.
And the British were involved, and there's a lot of room for intrigue and crazy magic. So yeah, I mean, I think it would be super awesome. I that's this is my number one, just because
Yeah.
I'm so psyched about it. It's also my area of expertise in history, like modern China from, like, the end of the Ming to present day. So I would be super excited about it. So
Yeah.
there's one vote.
Also, Lolo said like Three Kingdom Historic Arcanums would be great. I think that was on the option when we talked about doing something from East Asia.
Qing Dynasty, not Qin Dynasty. So
Yeah,
this is like, yeah, this is 1800s rather than
yeah,
Three Kingdoms would be amazing too, but yeah, like that would
yeah,
be
yeah,
way
yeah.
earlier.
All right, Qing Dynasty China. It actually scored in the mid of the survey with 196 votes. So you weren't alone, Tyler.
All right, I see you.
Yeah.
I see you all. Get in the comments. Help me out here. We can bring that. We still have time to bring that number up. We've got like 10 more
like,
minutes.
it's right up there with like a lot of very good options. So I think to be honest, like to be honest, like I thought it will score less than this, but it ended up in being one of like respectable ones.
I mean, you still have 20% of the votes not counted, so and that kind of tallies up to 400 votes. If you can convince all of them, Tyler, we can do this.
There were also a lot of
It's a Herculean task, Tyler, but I think you
there were a
can
lot
do
of unregistered voters that probably would have gone my way too.
Did we release the vote count for the first two options? First two options, as in Ancient Greece and Constantinople, yes. Ancient Greece got 304, and Constantinople Trilogy got 288. We haven't talked about which option got the number one spot, but it scored 372 votes. Alright, next one, Sengoku Jidai. In the tumultuous period of warring states in the 19th century Japan, you must navigate war and the shifting landscape of spirits to bring about uneasy peace or lasting ruin. A classic historical period. Total
Yeah.
War Shogun 2 has been my jam for for a long, long time.
Yeah, but I mean, you hated the TV show, so
I didn't like the Shogun, no.
Yeah, same. It's also it's something that has been done very well recently with
Yeah,
like some video games.
yeah,
It would be hard to do. I mean, we could do it. It would be hard to do interesting and different, but
yeah.
it is a very fascinating period for sure.
Yeah, for like IPs like Historica Arcanum and Assassin's Creed, I mean, after a certain point, we really have to do some of these very popular ones. Like, there is no escape to it.
and at the same time, like I love how the fantasy and like mythological elements can also play a part in this as well. Like, and this is something also that's been done by like a lot of IPs, but it's not as prevalent as let's say like Vikings and stuff. For example, like I don't know, first thing pops into my mind is Sekiro.
Yeah,
There are some like mythological elements in it, but it's not as like prominent in what you can like come across in Vikings and like ancient Greece and stuff. So like there's a lot of stuff to explore, like mix and match in terms of like mythology and like the real characters and stuff. But it's very exciting. It's very exciting. If I was a voting man, I would like probably vote it like a in the third place, or like the second place.
yeah. Before talking about how many votes it got and how which spot it scored, a couple of stuff on the chat. Roman theme content. We actually have it. We have released and currently developing a board game called Historica Arcanum Cults of London, and there are a couple of Romani themed characters and relics there, as far as I remember. So, yep. Cyprian has Historica Arcanum, the Great Emu War when. I mean, playing a druid there would be a really, really fun role-playing opportunity. And finally, bring us a Nasir. I mean, before we did Crusades, we really wanted to do a Bronze Age collapse, but moved away from that because of creativity reasons. But
Yeah,
I
like
really, really think,
it was the first, like
yeah,
it was the most scored option in our previous uh, voting, but like
yeah,
we ended up not doing it because the creative director in the conversation couldn't come up with like a very strong concept for that,
yeah,
and we end up doing Crusades.
yeah,
Yeah.
which turned out to be a spectacular setting that I hate because I can't play it as a player. I know everything about it. Alright, Sengoku Jidai. It actually scored 4th place with 216 votes.
Wow.
Alright,
Cool.
yeah. The following two have scored the lowest, so I am going to be
Let's talk about
be
them,
very
like,
brief about them. The second lowest scoring was Mega Dungeon: The Hunt for the Lord Impaler. Experience the world like Vlad the Impaler would want you to, trapped in this terrifying Wallachian dungeon. Fight your way through a host of denizens and make unlikely allies as you struggle to see the daylight once more.
Yeah, maybe people were thinking like mega dungeon, they don't want one big dungeon. Obviously there would have been like chances for, social things too, not just fight, but maybe that played into a low score. Also maybe people were thinking like Curse of Strahd vibes or something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's definitely like a competitor over there.
Yeah.
This would have been pretty different, obviously, but yeah, I can see that.
I mean, I would love to do like a mega dungeon for it because, like you said, it's probably about like the social side as well. But like, I don't know, like if we develop something like that, I think there will be like very good options to like role play and like exploit the social side of being trapped in somewhere. But I think it was like it breaks my heart to see it in like in the depths.
Yeah, the reason why I really would have wanted to do this was because it would tie in really well with City of Crescent, with like one of the early level bosses being the skull of Vlad Tepes, the OG Dracula. But yeah, it got second lowest vote, so I guess, and this has been its second time in the next Historica Arcanum survey not scoring very well, so we may actually say goodbye to this one. Alright, the last place. Oh, by the way, this is second last with 104 votes. So again, once again, a lot of votes here, but it just didn't make the cut. And the last place goes to Mega Dungeon, Depths of Giza. As Napoleon's army invades Egypt, a team of explorers rushes to uncover or keep hidden what lies beneath the eternal monuments of Giza. Do you guys have any feeling about this one? Any feelings about this one?
Yeah, again, it just might be like not interested in a dungeon crawl type experience. Maybe.
Yeah. I think
see it
that's
having some
like
interesting...
a common demeanor between the last two options.
Yeah. If it was not just the dungeon, if it had other aspects to it too, like Napoleon's army coming into Egypt, and there are other things that we could incorporate too, but yeah, just a mega dungeon with, I don't know, some like Lovecraftian vibes or something could be cool, but yeah. I mean, it's not my cup of tea, like just mega dungeons, even though you could make them have various aspects to them, like roleplay and exploration and combat, but yeah, I'm not surprised to see the mega dungeons down at the bottom, to be honest.
All right, Do you have anything to add?
No, like I mean, I'm pretty much on the same page with Tyler. I think like we need to polish and like shine up our mega dungeon meaning and like come up with like a better explanation to those, and we'll see it on the like next voting.
Yep. All right. The first place. Before, I mean, you guys know what got the first place, but do you guys in the chat remember what option that I didn't talk about?
Here comes my baby.
Yeah.
I fought with Sarp a lot on this,
so
please back me up in the chat.
All right. Yes, it is Salem witch trials in 17th century England. New England, not England.
Yeah, please, come on, sir. Dude guy, come on, dude.
In 17th century New England, suspicion, fear, and horrors beyond imagining are closing in on all sides. What will you do to survive?
Right, so there are a couple of things that I want to address. First of all, I think like in terms of me knowing the ins and outs of like our team's creative process and stuff, I think it would fit Metis creative very, very nicely to come up with like a Salem concept, because I think like we are still very much in like the same vein with the aesthetic that pops into everyone's mind, and I think we can do even better at that.
Yeah,
like
we can one up it.
We can one up it, like definitely. And like in terms of like us doing fairly new settings, like fairly modern settings, like I think we can come up with like a lot of crazy characters, and it will be refreshing in terms of like we always ended up with like sword fights. So like let's do something different. Like let's dive more into the witchcraft and stuff. So there's a lot of like interesting characters. There's a lot of key events. So like I wanna work on like a scenario, a concept about like mass hysteria and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, like, absolutely.
So I can yap about it all day. So like, please somebody.
Oh yeah, with that said, like just you mentioned the Bronze Age one earlier. Like that one won the popular vote, but then when it came down to bronze tacks, shall I say? We couldn't quite, nail down a cool concept that we wanted to run with. Obviously, the Sea Peoples invading is an awesome thing in Bronze Age, but there weren't a lot of like, big names, people of interest to. So and maybe Salem. I mean, I'm not saying anything either way, but like maybe Salem, if we dive into it, will turn out to be like that too. Like just because it wins the popular vote doesn't mean that we're throwing all creative ideas out and we're just gonna like ram a square peg into a round hole and make it work. If it's not working, it's not working. So just for those who maybe weren't, I'm just reading the comments now, for those who are not excited that was number one, never fear. Like please trust us that we'll find We'll find what works coolest for how our brains are working. Let's say it that way.
Dynasty to top.
This is Qing Dynasty propaganda.
Hey, what I'm trying to say is change your votes to Qing Dynasty. That's all I'm trying to say. Opium Wars. Come on, Opium Wars. Taiping Rebellion. No, but Salem, I mean, it's weird because, this company is a company based in Istanbul, Turkey, and, from a very interesting perspective on, that's very different from traditional RPGs oftentimes that are very, Western fantasy and things like that. And for me, as an American who's lived in Turkey for a while, Salem coming up is buck wild because I'm from New Hampshire. I went on school trips to Salem. I went there on Halloween. It's like that's my backyard. So it's very interesting to go to a D&D or RPG space in that world. It could be very cool. Like one of my favorite movies recently was Witch from what's his name? Eggers. So it's definitely there are cool things there. Maybe we could incorporate some Native American things into it, respectfully with consultants, but that could also be cool. So it's not just a bunch of boring Christians who don't trust each other. Yeah. Anyway.
I didn't expect Salem Witch Trials to win because as far as I remember, it didn't score that well in the previous survey.
But like I said, I kept pushing.
Yeah.
Which means Tyler will decide which one will come on top in the next one.
By that logic, I've got a year to sort of canvas.
I mean, I grind it and I won.
If you see me at Gen Con later in the summer, you'll hear me talking about Qing Dynasty a lot.
Giving people tokens and buttons and whatnot.
Yeah.
I voted for Qing Dynasty.
And all I got was this lousy button.
Yeah. But I really think Salem Witch Trials, I think in the world of Historica Arcanum, how do I say this? It would be Spider-Man in a world where you have Thanos. It's a bit more low-level adventure, which is a praise. I really love doing these, low-level, slightly Lovecraftian, very uncanny adventures. I think that's where this, Historic Arcanum lore shines the brightest.
Yeah, I'm completely on the same page with you. So I mean, if you're a very strict follower of Historic Arcanum, you know that the amount of magic in the world, the density of magic in the world only got lower and lower throughout the years. So us being in the 17th century, 18th century, with Salem Witch Trials, I think it's 17th century, yeah. So the magic is even it grows less and less and less. So the potency is only very not only very dangerous, but at the same time very weird for a commoner as well. So the story itself.
Another issue I have, I mean, again, this doesn't need to change things, but another problem I have with is from a historical perspective, it was very insular. It's not like a Constantinople or Venice where, or even Vikings who traveled a lot. It's not a place where you're going to have a lot of cultural diversity. So trying to find a way, this is, possibly will be a fun challenge, or it will be a Tyler beats his head against the wall challenge. But finding ways to incorporate cultural diversity and different ideas and things that isn't just, puritanical oppression all the time, which could be very cool and scary, but also if ever, it could be one note depending on, it's just an interesting thing that popped into my mind. That's something a hurdle we'll have to jump over.
Yeah. For me, Salem Witch Trials is just gorgeous as long as we can get a very cool historical hook character that we can draw all of visual and story-wise inspirations from. Because I think the setting itself just makes way for one of the best Historic Arcanum mini settings within itself. So yeah. All
right. So this was.
Yeah. This was the next Historic Arcanum story. But by the way, I just have to say 372 votes. This one was won essentially by a very, very narrow margin.
Yeah.
No. I'm not gonna let you do that.
No, it did like 372 votes, and they the first place spot kept going up and down between Constantinople trilogy, Ancient Greece trilogy, and Salem throughout the entire voting process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like, jokes aside, I'm gonna be like very, very satisfied whichever ones wins, but like I think like we have a clear winner.
yeah, sure, we do. Also, I see Cyprian, like John Proctor, those are great characters. Also, too, like all of these characters are really good. But when we were first debating this, like the reason why I said maybe Salem is not the best fit was because imagine Baldwin. He has a very specific visual style that if any person who enjoys history would just immediately recognize. The same with
Saladin too.
Yeah, Saladin, Vitruvian Man, and whatnot. But that being said, it was just me and Tyler kind of beating Salem after we announced that it was first place. I'm super excited to do that. So yeah.
Next year,
like it's like maybe there's no person on the level of a Saladin or something in that, but the image of a pilgrim soaked in blood or whatever, like that's that's something very iconic.
Or like
there's stupid hats and there's stupid belt buckles and
or like essentially like burning of witches and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, just thinking about the book cover art gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I promise you guys, like, we're gonna nail it with the visual team.
Yeah, hell yeah. I think this is it from the stream.
Yeah, before we do our closing remarks, I would kindly want to remind you guys, Historica Arcanum is up. You guys can follow the campaign. You guys can click on notify me on launch button. That'll be very much appreciated. It's gonna be such a cool It's gonna be such a cool project. We are writing down our best ideas in order to like come up with like a very, very refreshing and like a very crunchy and very fun combat system. We're gonna have like a lot of new mechanics that you'll probably enjoy in terms of like playing TTRPGs. Have our first sci-fi campaign, so it's gonna be crazy. Please be with us.
Before closing, just want to say a couple of sentences about Historica Arcanum. I think Historica Arcanum is super cool, very interesting for us for two reasons. One, we are essentially building a whole new system. We are essentially flying from the nest. Because all of our previous content, except for Cults of London, was Dungeons and Dragons, and it came with its own opportunities and drawbacks. This time we are doing something that's completely new, that's completely ours, and we have some really good ideas. The second thing is, since that this won't be historical, this will be sci-fi set in the not super far, not super near future. We will actually be able to do a whole world building in terms of like writing the fiction of it, and that is very exciting for us, both in terms of mechanics and world building. I think if you are interested in a game like that, you're in for a huge treat.
All right, before we go, we can like if you guys have questions, it is time before we go on. We would love to answer a couple of questions. And Tyler, do you have any closing remarks?
No, I saw one question that we kind of skipped over from Richard. Is the Salem thing the same time as Roanoke disappearance? Roanoke was earlier. Roanoke was the first attempt at a colony and did not go so well. Maybe there's a way we could incorporate something like that into it, but a bit different colony that was further south in what's now North Carolina, and I mean, and without getting too far into all of it, but like the northern colonies and the southern colonies were quite different beasts. So that might be a bridge too far potentially. Also, America's huge, so that's a
Yeah.
big geographical.
It's always very hard to imagine. Another very very important question that we have to address: your favorite Baldur's Gate 3 companions?
Karlak.
Uh,
Say something else, huh?
It's
Huh?
very tough to say anything else, but like
Say something
let's
else.
try. Let's try. Tyler, how deep are you in Baldur's Gate?
I have to be totally honest. I'm not. I still haven't beaten it because I haven't had time, and my computer's really janky. I'm still in Act 2. I haven't even beaten I haven't even beaten the dude
Quite
from
far enough
Spider-Man.
to name like a favorite companion.
I think mine's probably Karlak too, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I like
it's
Astarion,
everybody's
and
favorite companion. Let's say something else.
I like who's the bear man again?
Halsin.
Halsin?
Yeah, I'll say the bear man. Why not?
All right.
It's not that, but probably Karlak, just because she's such a sweetheart and
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
know.
Okay, so
Yeah, say something different.
I have a not an unpopular opinion, but like I really like Gale. I really like having Gale around.
Boo.
Boo.
I don't know. I don't know. I love how nerdy he is.
No, he's fine. He's
Makes me feel home.
We got one more question. I think you should answer this one. How do you choose cultural consultants to work with, and how do people get involved? Tyler?
great question. So I can't speak for the earlier ones, but for this one, we have two historical consultants. Laura from Italy. You guys actually can explain how we hooked up with her. And the other one is Michael, who reached out to us, and his expertise is in magic in the Renaissance and like Marsilio Ficino and those crazy cats. So he reached out to us, and
It's crazy, by the way, which looked like a completely, completely, I don't know, forged email.
no, it didn't. Don't. I know
Too
it
good to be
was
true.
super professional.
Yeah, he was great. He was great.
He's been amazing, and obviously they're gonna get shout outs in the book as well as obviously all the backers too. Yeah, and Laura, she's a friend from Acheron Games, is that right?
Oh, no. She actually, on a completely random occasion, she was traveling to Istanbul and wanted to meet up. Turned out that she was head of Jano Academy. They are running...
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Jano's Academy. They are running TTRPG classes with universities in Italy. Venice, as far as I remember, but I'm not 100%... Sorry, Rome, not Venice. And she was also a historian by university, so she essentially became one of our consultants. But if you are experts in any field that we are looking to cover, please feel free to write to us. Like, we would appreciate it big time, and we always love working with members of our community.
Yeah, definitely. And
Phoenix email probably would be the best way to reach out.
we would love for you guys to reach out, by the way.
Yeah,
we
please
always,
email us. We respond to everything. We're chronically online.
yeah, definitely. And okay, so another question. I see. Okay, so it's gonna be tough. Why there are so many muscle mummies in Historica Arcanum?
So we are working with
I
this
am usually
illustrator called
the guy
Baggy.
who gives briefs to the artists. But
Well, that wasn't a question. He was just saying our love of Karlak is leading
yeah,
into.
I mean it's out there, but I'm just trying to explain.
Go explain yourself, dude.
Okay, so I'm definitely gonna throw Balgin under the bus right now. I'm the guy who usually writes down briefs, but I have proof that I never written. This guy is gonna be a muscle mummy, but Balgin always loves to take creative freedom.
I mean, she's so great. Like, if I could just wax poetic about the genius that's Belgian for a second, like she's just so great at making.
Muscle
well,
mummy.
but she's so great at making like characters with real like personality and vivacity. Like you can really see them like jumping off the page and like strong people like of whatever, whether that's like a sorcerer surrounded by candles or like a barbarian in the streets. I would also say I didn't ask her about this, but the barbarian path of the Circ art is giving me total like Jinx from Arcane vibes with like I don't know if she was going for that, but that sort of gleeful,
I mean, the
like
time frames match, so
Yeah.
might be.
maybe.
We'll ask her tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, never.
The art book and behind the scenes, man.
Okay, so behind the scene, actually, like we would love to create more content for you guys. To be honest, in terms of like video and other
Yeah.
stuff, but like it's always very weird when we shoot videos like that because it's in Turkish.
Yeah.
So like this is something that we are having such a hard time to do, but and we don't want to pretentiously speak English when like when it's like not necessary. But
We could do subtitles, but it's a big
it's
process.
not.
So
Yeah, it's not.
yeah,
it's
but
not possible.
art book is definitely possible.
Yeah.
We are always like, as a company, we have this vision of not very like it's apparently not very financially smart, but we usually try to make our we usually try to make the best possible product. So like we always put the money on to make the book a little bit better, make the ink a little bit better, make the box a little bit better. So we don't usually end up with some excess money that we can put on to something else. But once anytime when we have like enough like a better financial situation to do that, we're gonna do that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Do we need an expert on cheese and platypuses?
always. Yeah,
Always.
so it always comes in handy.
Always. Next Historic Arcanum.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and lastly, Labjock Gaming. Not gonna lie, just heard what next game is likely to be, and as someone who's played Banishers, I'm intrigued by what this could be. Don't know much. Yeah, I haven't heard of it. I'm gonna look it up. But
Same.
but if you are into role playing games and have interest in
Very good, by the way.
have interest in like the time periods that we want to cover, you should check out at least the Kickstarter page. I don't think you're gonna be disappointed. That being said, I think it's time we wrap this stream up. It's been 2.5 hours. Jeez.
Thank you guys so much
All
for
right.
being here. Thank you, Sarp. Thank you, Tyler.
Yes.
So much for being here.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
It was very fun.
Yes, this was really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Again, if you need anything else, if you want to know anything else, if you just want to reach out, please email to hello@mitsmedia.
Yep.
Please check out our new campaign. The link is in the description.
Yep.
Thank you so much Tyler, for listening to us in a Sunday evening.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to get in touch with me about Qing Dynasty, Opium Wars, Opium Rebellion, my email and address are no. Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, you could always reach out. I'm happy to chat about it. But yeah, maybe not my physical address.
All right. All right.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, guys, and we'll catch you in Discord, in comment section, emails, and probably with the next stream sometime soon. Now I'm gonna close the stream, and the shameless shilling of Astro Arcanum will be on the live stream for the next couple of minutes. See you guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.